Good evening. You are tuning into Awani Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. KJ promises every adult in Klang Valley to get vaccinated by next month. And how to keep the Delta variant at bay. We find out if there is really a need for the third shot. That's coming up. The government today announced the introduction of Operation Surge Capacity. Minister in charge of Immunization, Khairi Jamaluddin, said under this initiative, every adult resident in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor will receive at least one shot of the vaccine by August 1st.
Under the Operation Surge Capacity, we will ensure that every adult resident of Selangor and Kuala Lumpur will receive at least one dose of their vaccine by the 1st of August.
Once Operation Surge Capacity is completed on August 1st, he said that all vaccination centres in the Klang Valley will be open for walk-ins.
But if there are those who are not captured by the system, that are residents of KL and Selangor, that we may have missed out, for instance, those who are without any documents or perhaps undocumented migrants, and even others. We have made the decision that on the 1st of August, setelah kita selesai Operation Surge Capacity, all PPVs in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor will be walk-in for people to receive their vaccine so that we can mop up anybody that has not received their first dose in Kuala Lumpur and in Selangor.
Meanwhile, Khairi said senior citizens in the Klang Valley above the age of 60 and with no MySejahtera appointments for vaccination can walk into any PPVs in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor beginning tomorrow. He reiterated that those who have already received their appointments to follow their given dates.
The Enhanced Movement Control Order EMCO at all 34 sub-districts in Selangor will end at midnight as scheduled. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the National Security Council studied the current situation and decided there was no need for an extension. However, the EMCO relaxation does not include Damai Apartment in PJS 8, Jalan Pandan Indah in Ampang, Jalan Batu Nilam in Bandar Bukit Tinggi and Taman Samudera in Gombak. These localities will be under EMCO between July 18 and July 31st. Malaysia has ramped up its COVID-19 tests and conducted over 100,000 cases in the last 10 days. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said the number of tests being performed were the highest in the last 2 days.
In a series of tweets, Dr. Noor Hisham showed the number of both RT-PCR and RTK antigen tests conducted in public facilities were significantly higher, especially in the last 3 days, where daily infections crossed the 11,000 mark. He also said that Malaysia's testing capacity can be increased by roping in private laboratories to handle targeted screening. Meanwhile, Dr. Noor Hisham added that just slightly more than half of the 12,541 new COVID cases today were found to be asymptomatic. Another 5,848 patients, or 46.1%, experienced mild symptoms of the virus. 86 cases experienced pneumonia, while 49 cases experienced the same symptoms but required oxygen therapy. Dr. Noor Hisham has attributed the surge in cases to ramped-up tests and the spread of new aggressive variants, most notably the Delta strain since June 26.
The Delta variant is responsible for the latest deadly wave of infections worldwide, including Malaysia. What can be done to protect oneself from the highly transmissible variant? We speak to clinical immunologist Dr. Amir Hamzah on steps that we can take to keep infections at bay.
It's all about the ventilation. So, and with the Delta variant, we know that has been mentioned by the Director General of Health. It is airborne, it is infectious with the R0 about 5 to 8, where you think about the original ancestral strain originated in Wuhan. That was only 2 to 3 R0. So you can see there's a lot of things to be done to ensure that there's minimum contact within a confined space. So even though it might be big, but the ventilation is one thing. And I think another important aspect is to have more on the genomic surveillance. So I think I'm not privy to that sort of data immediately, but I think that has to be one of those things that we need to keep and tap on. And then once we know which are the areas, then I think we have to be very strict about the lockdown, the targeted lockdown, you see, because I think there's just a little bit loose and porous at this point of time.
In dealing with COVID-19 variants, health experts and drug makers have explored the idea of giving booster shots to further protect and build immunity. Is there a need for a third dose now? Clinical immunologist Dr. Amir Hamzah weighs in.
We talk about the booster dose. That means we are talking about a third dose. And this so far has been mentioned mainly for the mRNA vaccines, particularly Pfizer. As one would know, they have already applied for the FDA for a third dose under the EUA. But we think that, and the studies coming around from UK, Canada, Israel, and a few other European countries shows that the protection is high with the two doses, even with the Delta variant of even more than 80% in general. Of course, it's not as high as was before when we talk about more than 95% in the effectiveness. And I'm talking about the fact that this is still good to prevent the category 3, 4, and 5, and then also death.
The Health Ministry granted conditional approval for the emergency use of Sinopharm's COVID-19 vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine produced in Belgium.
Duo Pharma will be the local distributor for the Sinopharm vaccine manufactured by the Beijing Institute of Biological Products. The Janssen COVID-19 vaccine, on the other hand, is manufactured in Belgium, with Johnson & Johnson Sdn Bhd as the product registration holder. Malaysia had earlier approved another batch of Janssen vaccines that had been given the green light for emergency use by the World Health Organization.
Meanwhile, Malaysia will soon allow the commercial sale of COVID-19 vaccines manufactured by China's Sinopharm and Sinovac. Khairi Jamaluddin said Sinovac vaccines would be available commercially from August 1st after it has completed the delivery of some 15 million doses procured by the government. Malaysia had previously said it would stop administering Sinovac vaccines after supplies run out and would instead rely largely on the Pfizer-BioNTech for its national vaccine program. However, Khairi today clarified that surplus Sinovac shots would remain available for those who may have allergy concerns with other vaccines. We'll take a short break. Stay with us.
Maka lebih sukar untuk COVID menjangkit kita.
Untuk tempoh 2 minggu ini, duduk di rumah. Kalau kita boleh laksanakan PKP, Kendiri dan keluarga,
saya kira insyaAllah kita boleh berjaya. Akhirnya kita menang.
Perang COVID-19 masih belum berakhir.
Welcome back. Despite the worst that it has brought, the pandemic has also brought out acts of kindness among people. During such bleak times, a group of Malaysians are aiming to raise 3 million ringgit through a live stream concert, Derma Kilat Rakyat. The proceeds will go to NGOs currently serving communities hit hardest by the pandemic. Nathaniel Tan from Project Bangsa Malaysia says we can count on ordinary Malaysians to act.
And it is very scary. I know it's a very scary time, but we will get through this. But we will get through this if we act very, very fast. People, I think a lot of people, I'm not here to be an alarmist or to create panic, things like that. But I think the government especially is really not acting in a way that demonstrates an understanding of how dire the situation is.
Nathaniel, like many Malaysians, is wary about the pandemic, prolonged lockdown and its impact on livelihoods and businesses. Civil society, he says, have the power and expertise to help Malaysia pull through.
We do not rely on politicians and we do not wait for politicians to act. So if they are not going to do the job, we are going to do our job. So what we're going to do next, right, is we're going to try and work on a plan against COVID, right? We're going to talk to experts, people who know their stuff, public health experts, economists. Again, we want a government who listens to the experts, right? So if we don't wait for them, we are going to do it. We're going to ask them to come up with a proper, actionable, step-by-step roadmap to get out of COVID, right? And then what we are going to do on the civil society side is we're going to organize a mass movement, what we hope will be the biggest Malaysia has ever seen, to demand that this action plan be implemented immediately.
Derma Kilat Rakyat goes live tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m, featuring Ultimate, Azmil Yunor and more Malaysian entertainers. You can tune in via www.facebook.com/Project Bangsa Malaysia.
On the international front, more than 100 people have died after severe flooding in western Germany and Belgium as rescuers continue to search for survivors. At least 81 fatalities occurred in Germany, while there have been 12 deaths in Belgium.
In the western German district of Achweiler, up to 1,300 people are missing after rivers burst their banks following days of extreme rainfall. Meanwhile, the village of Schuld, with a population of 700, was almost entirely destroyed. Collapsed mobile networks have made it difficult for people to track down loved ones in the regions affected. Some 15,000 rescuers have been mobilized for search and rescue, while helicopters picked stranded residents from rooftops. Apart from Germany and Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland have also been affected by severe flooding.
Singapore will be tightening COVID-19 measures just a week after restrictions were relaxed. This came after a KTV cluster, which was first reported on Monday, has grown to 120 cases, up from 88 infections yesterday.
Dining in at F&B outlets will be reduced to groups of 2 for people who are not fully vaccinated, while those who are fully vaccinated can continue to dine in groups of 5. All nightlife establishments now operating as F&B outlets will be suspended for 2 weeks starting today. The group sizes for indoor high-intensity mask-off activities have also been reduced to multiple groups of 2 in classes, capped at 30 people. This move comes amid a spike in cases, with 53 new locally transmitted infections reported in Singapore as of noon today.
Indonesia reported a record increase in COVID-19 fatalities today, with 1,025 deaths. Its senior minister warned that emergency restrictions in place will very possibly be extended given the spike in cases. Meanwhile, the government said it has cancelled a scheme to sell COVID-19 vaccines to the public after previously putting the plan on hold.
Indonesia also reported 54,000 new COVID infections today, taking the total number of cases to 2.78 million. It is currently imposing broad emergency measures on the islands of Java and Bali, as well as 15 other cities. The curbs introduced on July 3rd are scheduled to end next Tuesday. Minister overseeing the emergency, Luhut Panjaitan, said the number of cases might flatten within 2 to 3 weeks after the emergency is introduced. But he is not optimistic, as the outbreak, driven by the Delta variant, is proving to be very difficult to control.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the biggest tests yet of evidence-based medicine, as patients and physicians want quick remedies. Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our panelists about clinical research and how it informs Malaysia's public health response. That is all we have for you on Awani tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and Astro Awani app. I'm Soraya Mia. We'll see you again.